I just about forgot to start recording. My name's Justin Perkins. This is Talk Junkie. And it has begun. The 20-day fast from any type of news input and social media, anything that way. So I don't know anything about what's going on other than what I have in discussions with people. I'm not reading newspapers. I'm not watching the news. I'm not seeing posts on social media. That was going to start on the 2nd and go to the 22nd, end on my birthday. But I messed up and forgot yesterday morning, which was the 2nd. Today's the 3rd. I forgot, and I did actually get on social media earlier yesterday morning. And then I was like, oh, wait a minute, I can't do that. I'm not supposed to. So it's going to be more like a 19 3/4 day fast. And that's okay. I mean, there's nothing scientific here. I don't... I'm not in the middle of any deep research funding or anything of that nature. But, I had the weekend, for the most part, that I could be on social media and things of that nature. So there's other stories. I've done one podcast about some stories I've seen, and there's some other stories that are happening now that are gonna play out. But I am allowed to read books and watch. So there's a couple books that I kind of got lined up to go, back to back with. But also some good documentary stuff. I watched a documentary on Truman. I've watched a documentary on Bobby Kennedy. So I've been keeping up on that stuff. Like I'm kind of doing that, and I always, I'm curious about what I'm going to do a show about, and what people would like. We talk about how, I guess, crooked elections are now, and people are worried about absentee vote. The way that elections were held, especially elections that strongly influenced by the unions, but honestly the mob, because the mob just kind of come in and bum rushed and took over the unions, at no fault of the unions. But Truman's bid for vice president, literally they cheated and he didn't win, and he got to be vice president. Well, I guess he won on a technicality at the end, but he didn't win first ballot, and there was a lot of behind the door kind of shady things done. And John Kennedy would not have won the election, in my opinion, for two reasons. And one of these is an opinion of mine. Well, they're both kind of opinions, One can't be. If I'm not mistaken, and I need to go back and research this again, something that's kind of struck me, I believe maybe the first real television exposure for a presidential race was Nixon Kennedy. And, Nixon was talking about putting an African American on his cabinet. The Republicans had a lot better track record with African American vote. Southern Democrats, and up until becoming vice president and then president, Lyndon B. Johnson didn't have the best record. The Democrat Party was not the party for African Americans, yet, John Kennedy took that vote, which obviously he went many steps further to get their vote and do things that nobody before him had done. I think Nixon was kind of just a lot of promises. He wasn't actually showing any initiative to do anything. It was just kind of like, let me say these things and get your vote. But that African American vote would make a difference years on down, in Bobby's bid for the presidency. But what really seemed to me, I think one of the things that really made a difference was the appearance of Kennedy. I hear women say all the time Kennedy was an attractive man, and I've never heard that said about Nixon. I hate to be that way about Nixon, but sorry, dude, I've never heard anybody say that. So I think the public exposure and what Kennedy looked like, I think, helped Kennedy a lot in that election. And I think Kennedy seemed sincere, but I believe that the mob through the unions most definitely got Kennedy elected. And that was my understanding from everything I've read. That was going to be investigated because there was an issue there, and people felt it was an issue. And the Attorney General would be the person to investigate that. And Mr. Kennedy put in his brother in that position, and there you have it. Not a whole lot probably came of that investigation. But, I'm really delving into the history stuff right now. And albeit I'm not a political person and I don't like politics in the modern time, I do very much find a lot of interest in the historical aspect of politics, because to me that's kind of how you look at it and go, okay, this is not what I want to do going forward. There's a lot of stuff. I believe most Americans don't spend enough time looking at the history of our political state and just the history of our country in general. I think if you read most people a word-for-word description of what happened prior to, during, and after the Iran-Contra, they would go, that was like Delta Force 4 or something. That's the plot for Delta Force 4. That was a Chuck Norris movie. That's the one he was going to make right after Invasion USA, and it just happened. No, that was real. Our country did that. And we look at, and I think that's important because we look at the political landscape now and where we are with Iran. We put these people in charge in a lot of ways because they were a free country, very free, very much like us up until that point, and the United States helped tip that, and so we kind of caused this situation. It's like, we had a hard time in Afghanistan, and we were taking a lot of casualties. It's a very well-armed group of people that we armed against the Russians, and then kind of turned their backs on it. Now we're over there guarding poppy fields. I remember the Geraldo Rivera report. We're over there guarding poppy fields, and we look at the increase of certain drugs, or a certain drug, since we've been in Afghanistan, and its street value and its availability and how much of it's getting out there, and we look at that and we go, what's the factor there? And we look at World War II and all the promises we made to Russia, and Russia lost 29 million people in that war, I believe it was. I mean, they lost more than there were Jews killed in concentration camps. They lost more than there were than the United States and England, and I think maybe France combined lost. Russia took the brunt of the blow in that, and we step in to help there towards the end of that war, but we never really helped on the European front to amount to anything. We were, by that point, were distracted by Japan. But after the war, and you've got a change in presidents, and you've got a failure to do what we told Russia we would do, and to help Russia, and an immense distrust raises up from between us and Russia because we lied to Russia and we did not treat them correctly, and we had probably the worst president of all time, or at least of the modern presidents, in office during that, and it reflects poorly. So we look at a lot of our enemies, and we made a lot of our enemies. We really did. And during that same presidency, in that same time frame, in that same period, we dropped the 2 bombs on Japan and did not need to drop them. Japan had openly said, we will surrender. We just want to keep our emperor. Even if he's a puppet, they just wanted to keep their emperor because we had these people really thought this emperor to be a god. Who knows? I mean, who has any idea what Japanese people would have done if they couldn't just keep a little faith in that emperor? And they would have fought to the end of time without the emperor saying to to surrender, even if they lost everything. You know, that's how strong their conviction was and how strong their belief was. So I've got big into the history of things here lately, and that's what I'm going to do for the next, I guess I got 18 days left, 17 days left. So I'm going to do for the next 17 days. No, I'm going to the 22nd. Okay, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to really kind of focus and look at some history and stuff like that, because I can do that without looking at, the Pedo Island stuff and election stuff and all that good jive that's going on right now. Because one of the last things I've seen, and I can't wait to see how this works out, is apparently Tom Hanks has moved to Greece because he's a pedo. I would have thought Rome. I mean, you've seen all of his Angels and Demons movie and all that. He spent a lot of time in Rome. I would have thought if he was a pedo, he would have went to Rome. A lot of Catholic priests there. He'd had a lot of people that, shared interest with him. I don't know. It just would have made more sense. And I don't know that I believe that. I just can't. I can't believe Money Pit and Burbs era Tom Hanks or Big era Tom Hanks is a pedo. Forrest Gump maybe Jenny was smart. I don't know. I just it's hard for me to believe that. His wife is Greek. And I don't know. It's hard for me to believe that that's the case. And they're saying the same thing about Ellen, and apparently Ellen is sticking kids in boxes and mailing them out to people through Wayfair. I can't see that. Prices are way too cheap at Wayfair for them to have children. You know what I mean? Like maybe a higher scale store, but I can't see Wayfair. You know what I mean? It doesn't make sense. It doesn't add up to me. And they say she's quitting her show because she's a horrible person and a horrible boss. Apparently, that I can believe. It's always the really happy ones that like to dance a lot that end up being the worst people. So that doesn't surprise me. But her sticking kids in a box for Wayfair kind of surprises me. I mean, who knows more about box than Ellen DeGeneres? But still, it's not a logical progression. And a lot of my news feed has kind of been filled up with the pedo stuff here lately, and the Pedo Island stuff. And look, like I don't know what to make of it, because a lot of it sounds like conspiracy theory stuff, and I haven't really looked into it. And that's one thing that I think I'm going to do after this, is maybe take the time to look into this stuff and see, like, all right, I mean, the problem is you go watch these videos, and it's hard to watch them because it's like a flat Earth video. If I didn't know any better, if I was dumb enough to believe in flat Earth, there's flat Earth videos that are really good videos on YouTube. I mean, if things are written well, executed well, done exactly the opposite of the way I do this podcast, then they can become successful, and they can be very convincing and very misleading. So when looking into the Pedo Island stuff and the Pizzagate stuff, like, it's hard to look around. That seems like a really out there thing to me, and it's hard for me to believe, But I mean, I know there's something bad going on, and like, if you watch the Epstein doc on Netflix, Jeffrey Epstein is to massage what Bill Cosby is to NyQuil. I mean, it's ridiculous. Like, it's girl after girl after girl after girl. Maybe one person, at least, to be fair to the whole innocent until proven guilty thing, you could go, well, hold on, let's not pass judgment. Maybe the second one, okay. All right, 3, you're getting out there, but look, all right, when you get to 5, it's kind of like, all right, we're not going to presume him guilty, but it's not looking good. How many people does it take to where you just go, oh, shit, I mean, sorry. This has to be a case of of guilt on his part with this, because, I mean, it's girl after girl after girl after girl. And, I mean, it's a matter of him being linked to everybody. Everybody. But the dude was a con man from the start, you know? So that's something that once the quarantine of media is over, I'd like to look into. But that's a lot of the reason for doing this whole quarantine media deal, to get away. Because most of the information that I see on a daily basis is false. Or, even more prevalent as far as TV media goes, is I'm not getting false information as much as I'm getting biased opinion. And there's an argument to be made that that's unavoidable, because it is. And I think some people would say it's not as dangerous. I don't agree. Someone who is very articulate and intelligent and comes across in a very relatable way can convince you to believe things that, one, you would never believe any other time, and two, that there's no real basis in fact to believe. It's just simply their opinion on the matter. And to me, that's dangerous. It's as dangerous as being given false information. Because if you're given unsubstantiated information that is heavily dependent upon party affiliation and things of that nature, then you're not making real decisions, and you're not educating yourself in a factual state. You know, I mean, to me, that's just as bad as fake news. I mean, I don't know. That's how I feel about it. But also, to do something like this and to take nothing in for, 20 days, 19 days, whatever it is, that's very, that's very cleansing for the palate, I guess is the best way to say it, because you can come out of that and go, okay, I've not been, because everybody has bias. Like, I have personal bias that I'll catch myself and go, because there's things even that I'll go, all right, I'll defend something that I know is wrong, but I'll defend it because it's being attacked. Because I have this bias against people being unfair. Like, if I'm watching Fox, I find myself defending liberal point of view, even though there's no real liberals left for the most part. There's no real liberals left in government. There may be one or two, and I'm not even going to mention their name because of fear that they'll go away. But they do happen to be on the Democratic side. But I find myself defending it. And then you switch it to MSNBC, and I'll catch myself going, well, hold on, Trump didn't actually say that. Because this steady process of dumbing down and beating down and using media and news in that way have changed Americans. If you want to look at it and go, all right, let's break down the numbers. Technically, the economy's not that good. Technically, the job market is not that good. Technically, our trade did not increase that much. So, technically, by the numbers, if we break it down and look at it, Trump's not doing that good. Well, I'll tell you what, that's a hard argument to make, but it's a real argument. It's really not. But it is a hard argument to make. You get into facts and things of that nature, and people lose interest in it. They really do. On the other hand, if we sit down and say, well, 20 years ago, Trump was having, or 5 years, however long it goes, Trump was having a discussion with somebody where he said, hey, sometimes they just like it if you grab them by the okay. Well, there's been presidents in office that physically have done that. And we can prove that they have physically done that. There's so many worse things that people in our political system are doing that aren't getting discussed. We're talking about Biden is literally, it's very likely. It's very likely that, all joking aside, Biden is a dementia patient. That's highly likely. But the right likes to point out, like, Biden sniffing kids. Biden don't know if he's sniffing kids. Biden don't know where he was yesterday. Look, the pictures are weird. I don't know. Maybe somebody was taking pictures at weird moments and times. Or maybe he's part of the Pizzagate thing. I don't know. But let's not talk about him sniffing kids. Because there's no verifiable information there about him sniffing kids. I don't know if he likes to sniff kids. Babies smell good because of, baby shampoo. I wash my dog in baby shampoo. Baby shampoo smells good. I don't know. I don't know. Uncle Joe's a weird dude. I don't know. I can't find any way to defend him. He's just like Trump. I can't sit and think of a way to defend him. I don't know. But I don't have any proof that anything other than just being a weird old dude that he likes to smell kids. Like, I can't prove that, I can't. And being a parent with 2 kids, I can't imagine liking to smell kids. Like, they kind of smell bad a lot of the times. It is provable, though, that he has a mental issue. If you went to the nursing home and pulled Dada out of the nursing home and brought him out and put him on public display and said, hey, Dada's running for president. And the news goes, hey, Dada, what do you think about this, and this? And Dada still thinks it's 1955 because he don't know where he's at. That's cruelty. 1, people wouldn't accept it. And 2, people would be like, hey, you can't do that. Kind of like. Never mind. The point being, let's focus on the real things. And taking a break from that interaction from the news cycle allows you to do that. Taking a break from the news cycle allows you to sit down and somebody goes, hey, you know what? Economy's pretty good. And our trade's pretty good with China. And you know what? I think we're on the right path. And hey, you know what? I made more money this year than I've ever made. A lot more money than I ever made in 8 years under Obama. It's because they've watched that cycle that I'm avoiding for the next 18 days. Now, if you sat down and looked at that person and said, hey, we got major cities in the U.S. burning to the ground. We've lost most of our historical lands, spots in the South, which, don't get me wrong, you don't build monuments to losers, and you don't put up participation statues. I'm all for them coming down, but still, without any government input whatsoever. So, all of these social changes happen, and all these things are happening, and the country's in a bad spot in certain places. So we're going to ignore all that to go, hey, you know what? We could probably ban TikTok. And then force China to make a sale and then go, I'm probably not going to ban it. You can't pick and choose what's news. And that's what we do a lot of times. We pick and choose what's news. So that's the whole point in doing it. Now, I don't know. I got some emails asking, look, what's the deal with this? Why are you doing this? And then that's why. That's why I'm doing it. I just want to clean that out. Because I've been more involved with this. The last time, the night of the election, Trump versus Hillary, we had 2 different TVs on and a laptop on, watching news channels and results. I watched the debates and things of that nature up till that. I was as interested in an election as I had been since probably the first Obama election. I was naive. I felt like the Republicans weren't going to get their way and get Jeb. And I felt like it was very important that Hillary didn't get elected. And I thought, what's the worst you could do? You know, I mean, and really, to a large extent, that's true for any of them, even if Hillary got in there. What's the worst they can do? Especially this guy, because he's an outsider. Nobody likes him. He's not getting anything passed for the first 4 years, and there's no way he'll get reelected. You know, the Democrats will come back with a strong candidate against him. And, you know, they haven't. But still, I don't know that he can get reelected. I don't know that Biden can get reelected. I think this, though, I know this. I'm not going to be as engulfed in this election. But something I knew for a long time become very apparent to me over probably the last 8 years. A president can't make a change. He really can't. He can change public perception, things of that nature, but there's so many checks and balances there that a president doesn't make a change alone. You need the president, but you need the Congress, and you need the Senate, and you need a lot of different things to enact that change. And those people, you know, a president's there for 4 to 8 years. Those people are there, some of them, for 30 to 40 years. And even more dangerous than that is they're heavily influenced by special interest groups and money. You know, almost all of them go in either with some pre-existing money or just average Joe, you know, like me or you, and they come out filthy rich regardless. And Sanders is a rich man, a very well-off rich man. I know he drives the same car, blah, blah, blah. I know. So did, was it Ben Wallace played for the Detroit Pistons. Rasheed Wallace, I can't remember. But some dude for the Detroit Pistons, what's that? He drove the same Bronco, you know, or Bronco 2 is actually what it was, one of the little Broncos that he'd had since college or something like that, and didn't spend. I know there's a lot of dudes with a lot of money that don't spend any money. That doesn't mean he doesn't have money, you know. And who knows, after the few things that don't really impact us that have been done in what time Trump's in office, how much more money he's going to make when he gets out. Because I say it's set up for him to make a killing when he comes out. Otherwise, I don't feel that he'd do this. He didn't do it out of the kindness of his heart. So they can change things for themselves. But they can't change things for us. I don't think they have that in them or the want to do that, you know. And we've never had control over our politicians, and we should. And we've allowed our politicians to use their offices to make money. Lady Bird Johnson. Lady Bird Johnson's parents owned Bell Helicopters. The amount of money they made during the Vietnam War when when President Lyndon B. Johnson was in office, the amount of money that his wife's family's company had made was ridiculous. Probably unrivaled up till that point, and probably unrivaled again all the way up until Reagan and the birth of that big military-industrial complex, when it really came into its own. And then when you put Cheney in office and the amount of money Halliburton made in Iraq and Afghanistan, you know, that obviously, I'm sure, dwarfs it. I'd have to look at numbers on that. But see, it becomes a numbers game. And I forget who it was on which cabinet said we are a wartime economy. That's how we, you know, we've not been out of a war since then. And it's a sad thing, but those wars are for profit. And we as Americans don't stand up and say things about stuff like that and really try to make change and initiate change and vote for people who can bring change, because one, we're very tribalistic and highly, highly loyal to our parties, and that's crazy, because those parties are just built to divide us. These people are the same. There's one party in Washington making money, and there's two. They've split that into two groups that keep people fighting long enough they don't see what's really going on. I mean, that's just the truth of it, you know. And another reason for that is how we take in media and how we are influenced by social media. So I don't remember who sent the email, but if you sent the email for that's the purpose in doing this. So one more time to tell you kind of what's going on between now and August 22nd. No television news, which I don't really watch anyway, but no newspapers, no online articles, no social media, no links and posts, and nothing involving news. Happy ignorance and bliss from now until August 22nd. Now, if I have a conversation with somebody or we talk about something, cool, that's fine. I can do that. But I can only give you the opinions that I have, and I may talk about those things on here. I can only give you the opinions that I have. You know, if somebody comes to me and says, hey, man, Ellen DeGeneres was sticking kids in a box, you know, and she was shipping them out, and it's, you know, and then I can come over here and talk to you about that, you know. We can talk about Ellen DeGeneres and box all day long, you know. I don't know. If that's the case, then we'll do it. Or, you know, one post I seen, and I didn't really look at it for two reasons. One, to me, one of these few things I give people the benefit of the doubt. I don't vastly believe most conspiracies. That's one. Two, I didn't want to look at this, and it was going to be a month without being on the internet and not being able to look at it. But everybody that they've linked to the Epstein thing has been given some award by, most of them by Obama, you know, Oprah, I believe Ellen, Tom Hanks. This can't, I mean, like, we really got to work on the Tom Hanks thing has bummed me out. I mean, it's bummed me out. It is. But, you know, I'm also not saying I believe it's true. I'm just saying, like, if that's true, like, that bums me out greatly. But, you know, it's this picture of all these people, these famous people who are supposedly part of this. You know, the dude from Robot Chicken, Seth Green. Like, Seth, I can see, you can have Seth Green. Take Seth Green. Believe us, Tom Hanks. Come on. Castaway, Big, The Burbs. Right there, those three. I'm not a Forrest Gump fan. You know, I was kind of hoping Jenny would have given him AIDS. I didn't care. You know, but man, I love The Burbs. I don't know. It's hard for me to believe. And also, it's hard for me to believe that Seth Green is famous enough to be a part of this. Like, it would seem like they'd be a lot more selective over who they let into this thing. You know, I mean, all right, if you want Seth Green to take the fall, cool, let's do it. But, you know, in regards to, and Seth Green's the only one that's, to me, seems to have a verifiable link to this stuff. Because the one dude that really seems genuinely scary to me is the dude that made the video. I was like, look, man, I'm best friend with Seth Green. He tried to get me to get in some pedo stuff. I said, blah, 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 blah. Tells us a big story. And he's like, look, I'm not suicidal. If I kill myself, somebody look into this. Dude jumps off a bridge like 2 weeks later or something like that. You know, that's pretty out there. And it shows there has to be somebody a lot more important than Seth Green involved, because, I mean, come on. It is Seth Green. I think it is Seth Green. If it was Malibu Most Wanted guy, what's that guy's name? Jamie Kennedy. It was Jamie Kennedy. I think he's a little more famous than Seth Green. And, I mean, you know, look at either one of them, you could, you know, it's possible. It's possible with those two guys. I don't know. But now Epstein was obviously a horrible human being. And all joking aside with these people, who knows if he was just, look at as many people as there were, and they came out, and there was newspaper articles, and there was court cases and convictions, and we still didn't know who and what this guy was. Maybe these movie stars didn't know. I don't know. I'd give people the benefit of the doubt. Maybe they didn't know, because he wasn't trying to have sex with them. They were too old. So I don't know. I don't know what the deal is there. But that's something that is a prime example of why I feel like I need to take that break from time to time, and why I'm very selective about where I look at information from, because that's a case. The Epstein thing is peculiar all the way around, and there's a lot of stuff there that I really think people need to look at, but you can't look at through the filter of Facebook, because if you're on the right, then not only is he guilty, but you need desperately for Obama and Biden and Clinton and anybody that's a Democrat to be guilty, because it can't be Trump. Trump's not a friend of Jeffrey Epstein. But if you watch the next Netflix documentary, every 5 seconds they flash the picture of Trump and Epstein at Mar-a-Lago. So obviously Trump knew too. You know what I mean? And so the left wants that part to be true, but not the part about Obama or anybody else. So it's just keep them divided and keep them talking. Dude's dead. They don't even do about it. But this Ghislaine woman's alive, I don't know. They say people lie under waterboarding, but I don't have a problem with waterboarding her. I mean, if that's what they want to do, I'm cool with it, because there's enough. Like I said, we're not talking about 1 eyewitness, 2 eyewitness, 3. We're not talking about 5. We're talking about, my understanding, hundreds. I've seen documentation for 40-some on the first episode of a docuseries. So, there's a lot of people claiming this. So, I don't know. I'm kind of up in the air on how I feel about it. I feel that he's guilty, but do I feel that these people are linked? No, I don't necessarily. I'd say there's a lot of things going on we don't know about that are bad and nefarious, but I don't know that's one of them. So, here we go. I'm going to try this. And again, if you want to try it with me, send me an email. Gosh, I started at this date. I'm ending on this date. And, we'll discuss it when this is all over. But don't suck. Don't die. Tom Hanks. I don't know. Forrest Gump. Life is like a Wayfarer catalog. You never know just what you're going to get. Unless Ellen DeGeneres sends it to you, and then it's going to be a small child in a box.